Hello and welcome to another MCU video, and we are still going with the TV show of WandaVision. So we're also gonna do 2 episodes in this video as well, like the other one in episode 1 and episode 2. So this one would be episode 3 and episode 4. So same thing with enough with the second episode with a intro in the beginning, similar in this episode as well, but fortunately the other was in black and white, and this time we have more colorful colors in the show right now. So we're kind of like in an 80 type of TV show right now. So like they're all happy, they're outside and they're having some fun and stuff. This is type of like situation at the time. Big 80s TV shows around. I thought this was very interesting in the show, where enough of their neighbor was literally like having a chainsaw, and he is like sawing the yellow wall and stuff, and he just keeps going through it. So where Vision was seeing this, like he was like confused. It was kind of funny overall because he's just like he's cutting the wall, like that's what it looked like and stuff. So for that, there's obviously enough, there's something really, serious in this. At this point, it's really showing enough of like this is not really, real in some ways and stuff. This is not really reality and stuff, because we're kind of in some world Wanda kind of gave to us to, fit in or whatever and stuff. So fortunately enough, it's just things are just gonna look weird and stuff. And funny enough of a person sawing a wall and just don't even care and stuff, and that's where Vision just has like some weird type of look. And at this point enough of, Wanda is actually pregnant. Fortunately enough, she doesn't know she's gonna preg 2 babies. But I thought this was also a very interesting thing in the show as well, where she realized enough of her water broke and stuff, and then the house are just start raining and stuff, like cats and dogs. So I just thought that was very interesting enough of, no, she's not, her water broke. I mean, her didn't water broke or anything like that. The house did, basically, in her own world and stuff. So I just thought that was just a very unique type of situation, what the show brought into. And then finally enough, Wanda kids were born and stuff, and they named them Tommy and Billy. And this is huge for the MCU and just for like in the comics and in Marvel, just being part of the Marvel cinematic and stuff. These are also big characters where you also need to realize and stuff, because fortunately for Wanda kids, they also became as superheroes as well. Rambeau showed up at the house, and then fortunately enough, seeing she had babies, she kind of helped her with that and stuff. And then she realized enough of even Wanda had a twin as well, with Pedro as the Quicksilver and stuff. He passed away in the movie of Age of Ultron with the Avengers. So there was a huge thing where Monica Rambeau told Wanda enough of, your brother actually died from Ultron. So that kind of ticked Wanda a little bit because she didn't like, where did you find that out and stuff and stuff. And then we also see she's actually wearing a necklace and has a sword on it on her neck and stuff. So she's like part of like some type of agent, like same thing like a shield and stuff. So she was like being very sketchy with Wanda and stuff. And then fortunately, Wanda didn't like what she said to her in some ways and stuff. So I thought that was very interesting from the show. And then, fortunately enough, when Vision came back, Rambeau is not even there anymore and stuff. So, fortunately enough, we don't know where she basically went because, fortunately, Wanda figured it out enough of like she didn't really say of who what she did to Rambeau in the house and stuff. And then later on, at the end of episode 3, we saw Rambeau basically got shot out of the realm Wanda made into her also like normal clothes she was wearing in the realm and stuff. So it's very interesting how that works and stuff. And then fortunately, Sword found her just laying on the ground and stuff. So it's kind of crazy situation, and we'll figure this out in the next episode. So in episode 4, we'll figure what really happened. So episode 4 actually started with Rambeau in the hospital, but she was actually snapped when Thanos snapped in Avengers Infinity War and stuff. So she was one of the people got snapped. And then this actually shows enough for when Hulk snapped pretty much everybody back in Endgame. So she is now back into her normal form and stuff. And fortunately enough, in a 3 years into when she was away for 5 years, her mother died. And so we don't know if she died in the hospital or she just died somewhere else. And so we don't know that for sure. But fortunately enough, Captain Marvel, best friend she knew from, the Air Force and stuff, fortunately passed away. Then she went to this area similar as Shield, but Sword. I don't know who's responsible with this whole thing. I don't know Shield is a thing anymore and stuff. So I don't know Sword just kind of just like pick up and took over or something and stuff. Fortunately enough, I don't like the captain from Sword and stuff. He's pretty much, the only thing I don't like him because in the show he's kind of a jerk in a way and stuff. So he's kind of like the villain to me in a way where it's just like I just don't like him and he did bad things in the show, and I'll tell you why enough of I don't really like this character so much and stuff. So I'm just letting you know enough of like my opinion on this guy and stuff. And fortunately enough, I don't like him. We have other characters from other Marvel movies as well. So fortunately enough for Rambeau from Captain Marvel and stuff, we have Wu from Ant-Man and Ant-Man the Wasp. He was like the FBI was trying to help Scott Lang to be at home and all stuff. He's in this show as well, and fortunately people are trying to figure out what's going on in Westview because that is the world Wanda pretty much came alive or whatever and stuff. And then they tried to put a toy helicopter. So this is actually where we found the helicopter in the show where it was actually color and the show was black and white. So, and this is another thing I really realized enough of the detail on the helicopter. So, when they were trying to put the helicopter in the city and stuff, it looked different than what we saw in the show. So it looks like more bigger, more modern type looking and stuff. And then if you look in the TV show when it was colored and the show was black and white, it had a different form of a helicopter and stuff, like more as like in the 60s time toy type situation till the modern day helicopter and stuff. So I just thought that was a cool detail. And fortunately enough, the helicopter went in and they didn't see what actually happened. And then this is where Rambo basically thought enough there's a force field into it and stuff, and then she went through, and that's where enough of she's part of the show and stuff. That's where we saw her in episode 2 and stuff. So it's kind of crazy to think about that in a world enough Wanda made, and people are just going to be part of it. And then we finally have another side character from the other movies as well. We have Darcy Lewis from the Thor movies. She's actually like friends with Natalie Portman character, Jane Foster and stuff. So she's also part of what's going on with Sword. So she's trying to help. So basically all three of like the side characters from other movies are all like together and working out with Sword, I meant to say. She find out enough of it's just a TV show and stuff. So she's actually the one behind of taking notes and actually watching the show. So that's actually Darcy is doing that. At the very end of this episode, we actually figured out enough of Wanda is basically. There was also a time where when Vision came through when the babies were born. There was even a time where Vision had a different look than he used to have and stuff, and he had the face of what he actually died in Avengers Infinity War when Thanos killed him to take the stone out of his forehead and stuff. So he had that look and stuff because fortunately enough, Vision's supposed to be dead. He's not really real or anything, because we're gonna also figure out enough of why is Vision here as well. So more episodes to show what's going on in the show and stuff. And then fortunately look back, he's totally fine and stuff. And then the most biggest thing is at the very end of the episode where we found out enough what actually really happened with Wanda and Monica Rambeau and stuff. And then fortunately she basically kicked her out of the force field, the realm she had and stuff, and she just went flying and stuff. And then that's where enough of she's gonna go back and work with Sword because they don't know what's going on with Westview. So pretty crazy episodes. I'm probably gonna do just 2 episodes each video and stuff. I think that's the most basic. I can just keep up with this and stuff. I still like this show overall. I love the details from the show and stuff. I love just saying like little bits here and there to we will figure things out in other shows and stuff, because I don't want to totally big spoil into it and stuff. So just literally let you know of enough of there's just big things in this show will happen, and there's just at the point of when we're gonna get to those points and stuff, they're gonna be big. So just get hopefully enough to get to that point where we're gonna tell the big points in the show and stuff. And I'm honestly enough excited to tell you those points and stuff. So that's big thing about the show. really enjoyed it and stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it so much with me and stuff. So get hyped for other episodes as well, for like episode 5 and 6 as well, because things are getting a little juicy with Wanda, and especially with Vision as well and stuff. So hopefully you guys like this video. Hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this. Have a nice day, and thank you for watching.